Alan Wake 2 is a very good and even more confusing survival horror game from the mind of Finnish Kojima, Sam Lake, and of course what matters most for this channel, also has a pretty quick and easy platinum. Its trophy list was pretty basic, only requiring one playthrough for the story, some easy to find collectibles, and simple miscellaneous and combat trophies, which explains the abysmal trophy distribution of 65 bronzes, 1 silver, and no golds, but at least it only took about 20 hours to do, so I really can't complain. With that being said, let's get started with this mind-bending story. Spoiler warning for the entire game. We start off by controlling this naked fat guy who comes out of a lake and fairly quickly run into some cult members who kill him, earning us our first trophy. They then perform a ritual that gets interrupted by some witnesses. After some time passes, we meet one of the game's protagonists, FBI agent Saga Anderson, and her partner Alex Casey, who are on their way to the scene of the murder to investigate. After talking with her daughter on the phone, we eventually arrive to the location where we collect a map of the area, which unlocks another trophy. We then meet Deputy Mulligan, who directs us towards the scene where we meet his partner, Deputy Thornton. After inspecting the body and gathering some clues, we were able to form a hypothesis on what happened. We determined that the victim is FBI agent Nightingale, who apparently was really important in the first game, and that he came from the lake. Some more looking around reveals that he seemingly spawned in from under a tree, where we also find a manuscript page that is describing everything that's currently going on. This also unlocks a trophy. Now that we have everything that we need, we prepare to bring the body back to the morgue, but before leaving the area, I unlock a supply crate for supplies and a lunchbox for weapon upgrades, which also gives a trophy. With that done, we head to the nearby town of Bright Falls, where we go meet with the sheriff and the witnesses from earlier at the local diner. After learning that a cult was behind the murder, we start to leave, but then get interrupted by a waitress called Rose, who seems to recognize Saga even though they don't know each other. She's surprised that Saga came back despite her daughter drowning there, but this makes no sense since Saga has never lived there, and we talked to Logan on the phone earlier. Brushing this weird encounter off, we leave the diner and head to the morgue, where we find another manuscript page hidden in the corpse. The sheriff mentions that he has more of those, but after he gets them, he disappears into thin air, and Nightingale somehow comes back to life. He manages to take everyone out except Saga, who can hide in bright light as mentioned in the earlier manuscript page. We then heal up, which gives a trophy, before getting our gun back and shooting Nightingale, which makes him disappear as well. This also marks the end of the first chapter for a trophy. To fully get rid of Nightingale, we have to return to Cauldron Lake and find something called an overlap. At the lake, while completing the steps required to enter it, I find my first safe room, which gives a trophy. Thanks to some clues, we realize that we need to put Nightingale's heart through a hole in a board, so we go to the store next to where he was killed to pick it up, but get attacked by a cultist. I also get 2 combat trophies while fighting him. In the next room, I pick up an inventory upgrade and a shotgun, both of which also gave trophies, as well as the heart. So we go to complete the ritual to enter the overlap, where we finally kill Nightingale for a trophy. We then get teleported out and appear at the lake's shore, where some guy appears out of thin air, and turns out that is Alan Wake, who has been missing for 13 years in an alternate dimension accessed through the lake. This also puts an end to the chapter for another trophy. Before heading back to town to interrogate him, I explore the areas that were previously flooded, and in the process get trophies for getting headshots and using flares to defend myself. On the drive back, Saga's on the phone with her husband, who tells her that their daughter slipped in the shower and hit her head, but just got a minor concussion. Interrogating Wake is low-key useless because he seems pretty crazy and can't remember a single thing that happened, but we then get control of him to relive his story and learn what happened. We wake up in the middle of a talk show, and after a few loops, we get to the studio basement, where we find a lamp that lets us alter the environment with light. We also learn that Wake has the power to control reality with his writing, but has been unable to escape the dark place despite many different attempts, and also needs the clicker, a powerful item from the previous game. This also ends the chapter for a trophy. Now that we're out of the studio, we get a mysterious phone call telling us to go to the subway. Before that though, we run into Alex Casey, not Saga's partner but Alan's character from his books, who's investigating a New York murder cult inspired by Wake's writing. Before he can do anything though, he gets distracted by something and gets killed by it, leaving us the responsibility of completing the cult case. We also take his gun and flashlight, which gives a trophy. While looking for ways to enter the subway, I come across a word of power, which unlock upgrades for Wake, as well as another trophy. I also come across the sheriff who got trapped in the dark place by the TV host Mr. Door. Eventually, I gain access to the subway, where we learn more about the cult and escape from the dark presence for a trophy. Not long after that, I come across Nightingale's body and have a telepathic conversation with Saga to end the chapter for another trophy. After that, we head to Alan's apartment in New York, where he finds recordings made by his wife Alice, where she says that she is being tormented by Alan's spirit, who's thought to be dead by that point. We then get brought into his writing room and find another version of him dead while writing another escape attempt, effectively starting a new loop. This also ends the chapter for a trophy. We now switch back to Saga's plot, earning another trophy, and finish up Wake's interview, during which he says that Scratch, his evil double, also made it out when he did. From what I understood, Scratch is editing Wake's story that he wrote to escape, which is is affecting the real world but needs the clicker to complete his plan of essentially destroying the world. Now from this point I can switch freely between both characters, but for the sake of clarity and easier trophy unlocking, I will complete Saga's plot first, then Wake's, and then the finale with both. To start off, we head over to the nearby town of Watery to learn more about the cult of the tree and to get back the clicker from them. At the town we meet the Koskala brothers, Ilmo and Yako, who own the local theme park and trailer park, which is where we're supposed to find the clicker. They also give us permission to access what they think is Saga's trailer because they also think that she used to live there because of the story affecting reality more and more. While progressing through the area, I unlocked trophies for upgrading a weapon once, interrupting an enemy ability with my flashlight, equipping 3 charms, unlocking the crossbow, shooting a cardboard cutout at the theme park, getting a screwdriver to open locks, and solving 5 nursery rhyme puzzles. After all that, I eventually make it to the trailer park where we meet the Anderson brothers Thor and Odin, who are part of the band The Old Gods of Asgard from the first game and are also Saga's grandpa and great uncle. They're also unaffected by the story's power, yet remember Saga living there, making the story all the more confusing by this point. After talking to them, we go into our trailer where we find proof of Saga and Logan actually living there and that she did in fact drown, meaning that the story is controlling reality much more intensely now. We also find information on the cult leading us to the Koskala brothers warehouse. On our way there, we spot deputies Mulligan and Thornton in cult masks and have been taken over by the Dark Presence. Their warehouse ends up by being the cult's base, and in the basement we find the clicker, but it disappears just as we're about to pick it up, so we need to go complete another ritual to enter another overlap to get it back. After completing all the required steps, the overlap opens up, and inside we fight the deputies to get a trophy after beating them. After a psychic conversation with Wake, which is weird since he's supposed to be out of the dark place, we exit the overlap with the clicker and end the chapter for another trophy. Back at Bright Falls, the cult go and try and kill Wake and get into a gunfight with Casey. We then control Wake for a bit and fight our way through to Casey, and in the process get a trophy for a perfect dodge. We don't make it though because Wake collapses because of Scratch's presence nearby. Saga then shows up and saves him from a cultist who unsurprisingly is Ilmo. Right after that, the FBC, the Federal Bureau of Control, shows up, takes away Wake and takes over the case, which ends the chapter for a trophy. Back as Saga, we head over to her grandpa's nursing home, and on our way there we get a trophy for fully leveling up a weapon. At the nursing home, we run into Rose, who's also a nurse working there. It seems that Thor got into some sort of fight and Odin's passed out, so we have a psychic conversation with him where we learn that Saga was born in Watery, that they're actually related, the family has a psychic type of power, and that she needs to save Thor from a lady called Cynthia Weaver. So we convince Rose to let us go check on him in the medical center, where we learn that he's still fighting whatever attacked him. Outside, we see him walk into a pond and disappear, meaning that we need to go open up another overlap. Rose then gives us her key fob so we can go fully explore the residence and get what we need. After turning on the power and getting a record from Cynthia's room, we put it in a jukebox which opens up the overlap. Inside we find some bolt cutters for a trophy, then find and beat Cynthia for another one, then escape the overlap with Thor, which ends the chapter for one more trophy. He tells us that we need to give the clicker to Wake so he can rewrite the story and fix everything. Before getting to the next part of the story though, I go complete all remaining side content on Saga's side since there's a point of no return coming up. So in order, I got the hunting rifle, found all the nursery dolls, and completed all the nursery puzzles. Back in Bright Falls, we go to the police station to give Wake the clicker, but the FBC had been attacked by some monsters earlier, so we need to turn on the power to get to Wake's cell. In the process, I also find the pump shotgun for a trophy, as well as the final supply box for another. In the basement, we find Casey, who had been saved by the FBC, and he gives us a fuse to turn on the power. On our way back to the cell block, we get attacked, but by using a flashbang to stun an enemy, I pop a trophy. At Wake's cell, we're about to give him the clicker, but at the last second it's revealed that he's been Scratch all along, so using some FBC tech in the yard, we managed to fight him off for now, ending the chapter for a trophy. We've now reached the point of no return, so before continuing, I go wrap up all Saga related trophies, which were for petting a dog and collecting all the charms. The new plan is to summon Wake from the dark place by creating an overlap at the lake with a song from Thor and Odin and using the clicker. On our way there, Saga calls her husband to check in on Logan, but the story has started to affect the world beyond the local area, and he thinks that Logan is actually dead and that they got divorced. At the lake, the band starts to play their song and we have to fight off loads of enemies in the meantime, which allows me to get a one-shot kill with the crossbow for a trophy. Once the song ends, we use the clicker to summon Wake, but nothing happens, and at this point we switch over to his story, which for some reason insta-pops a trophy for getting the double barrel shotgun. We go through this fairly long musical sequence where they played Herald of Darkness from the 2023 Game Awards, which I won't play so I don't get smited by Sam Lake, and along the way find the flare gun for a trophy. By the end, we're back at Dora's studio, which ends the chapter for a trophy. Outside, we receive another phone phone call, this time calling us to the Ocean View Hotel, and on my way I get the double barrel shotgun again, but this time I get a trophy for collecting all the weapons in the game. In the hotel we come across some guy called Tom Zane, who was important in the first game, but I have no idea why he's important other than the fact that he's the cause of Wake writing the story initially. After solving some sort of murder mystery, we leave the hotel to end the chapter for a trophy. We then go to his apartment, where this time Alice's videos reveal low-key nothing that important. Back in the writer's room, we see him edit a completed version of the story, then another version of him shows up and kills him. This ends this short chapter for a trophy. By this point he believes that Scratch killed him and decides to go find Zane to get some answers. Before that though, we need to leave the studio again, and this time we leave with some pictures taken by Alice. After leaving, I get another trophy. This time we go to a movie theater where I get another trophy for watching some videos, but before that I have to go confront Zane at the hotel, where we learn that he had gotten Scratch to write the story and not Wake, then we kill him. At the theater, after solving another murder, the chapter ends for a trophy. Now we go leave Alice's pictures that we got earlier by a statue before heading up to the apartment, where we find out that she killed herself because of Scratch. In the writer's room, we see Scratch editing the manuscript, so we kill him, only to realize that it was never Scratch, and in fact it was always Wake, whether it be haunting Alice, editing the story, or killing the editing Wake. After the realization, the dark presence takes over Wake, actually turning him into Scratch this time. Confusing, I know. This also ends Wake's story for a trophy, and now we begin the finale. It turns out that the summoning kinda worked because Wake did get taken out of the dark place, just not to when it was performed. Instead, he was brought in after Nightingale's fight when he was initially found by Saga. Scratch then shows up, so we fight him and trap him in a box, but instead of destroying him, he takes over Casey. He manages to take the clicker and throw Saga into the dark place to end the chapter. To wrap up the story, we first need to play as Wake through Scratch's story, where I get a trophy for watching a bunch of commercials. We eventually make it to the writing room, where he starts to write an extra chapter for the story to correct everything that Scratch has done, which pops a trophy. As Saga, we piece together one final case to make sense of everything and escape the dark place. She wakes up in the New York that Wake had to get through and collects the items from Alice's pictures, the clicker, and a bullet of light. With them, we escape for a trophy and meet Wake in the writing room to end things. We use the clicker to get Scratch out of Casey and into Wake again, so we can shoot him with the light bullet and kill the dark presence. This ends the game for the only silver trophy. Now all that's left are two combat trophies. One was for getting a kill with an explosion, and the other was for using a charm to cheat death, which unlocked the Alan Wake 2 Platinum. Overall, I think this was a very solid game, but a bit frustrating at times because of all the running around for collectibles that I cut out, or the story being hard to understand in the moment. I still had a good time getting the Plat though, since the story was pretty interesting despite me not fully understanding it, and the overall game direction being quite unique. Let me know what other games you'd like to see me complete, and until next time, have a good one.